Just a real quick announcement, folks. If you could turn off your cell phones or silence them during our ceremony today, thank you.
Good afternoon. This is a very special day. My name is Larry Rankin, and I welcome our World War II veterans, their spouses and family members, our Otterbein residents and guests to this very special celebration event. And before we start, I wanted to make some announcements too, but Rhonda's already mentioned one of them. Turn your ringers off on those phones out of respect to our readers and our veterans, please. Also, there may be a couple of instances in this day that we're asking you to stand, but only stand up if you are able. Please be careful. I think that's pretty much it. Again, we need to be mindful throughout when we leave. Be careful. There are seniors that have walkers and canes, and just be careful, be mindful of them as well. Give them respect, give them space. At this time, I'm asking you to please stand as you are able for the presentation of colors by the Air Force Junior ROTC members from Lebanon High School, followed by their leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Color guard, hold, left, hey, carry, colors, present, colors, carry, colors, order, colors. Right, pace. Forward, arch.
Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. On June 6th, 1944, at a critical and perilous time in our country's World War II struggle, President Roosevelt addressed the nation seeking God's providence and blessings. Permit me to share with you words from that prayerful, inspiring invocation. Almighty God, our sons, pride of our nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor, a struggle to preserve our republic, our religion, and our civilization, and to set free a suffering humanity. Lead them straight and true. Give strength to their arms, stoutness to their hearts, steadfastness in their faith. They will need thy blessings. Their road will be long and hard, for the enemy is strong. He may hurl back our forces. Success may not come with rushing speed, but we shall return again and again. And we know that by thy grace and by the righteousness of our cause, our sons will triumph. They will be sore tried by night and by day, without rest until the victory is won. The darkness will be rent by noise and flame. Men's souls will be shaken with the violences of war. For these men are lately drawn from the ways of peace. They fight not for the lust of conquest. They fight to end conquest. They fight to liberate. They fight to let justice arise and tolerance and goodwill among all thy people. They yearn but for the end of battle, for their return to the haven of home. Some will never return. Embrace these, Father, and receive them, thy heroic servants, into thy kingdom. And, O Lord, give us faith. Give us faith in thee, faith in our sons, faith in each other, faith in our united crusade. Let not the keenness of our spirit ever be dulled. Let not the impacts of temporary events, of temporal matters, of but fleeting moment, let not these deter us in our unconquerable purpose. With thy blessing, we shall prevail over the unholy forces of our enemy. Help us to conquer the apostles of greed and racial arrogancies. Lead us to the saving of our country, and with our sister nations into a world unity that will spell a sure peace, a peace invulnerable to the schemings of unworthy men, and a peace that will let all of men live in freedom, reaping the just rewards of their honest toil. Now, on this day, August 28th, 2021, we humbly thank God for America's World War II virtuous victory. But today, evil continues to rear its ruthless head. We grieve with the families of our 13 heroic soldiers who were slain on the Afghanistan battlefield, and we pray healing for those that have been wounded. We ask God to bless America, that we strive for goodness and righteousness against those seeking war and destruction. Today, we invoke God's blessings upon our World War II veterans and to their spouses and to their loved ones. Amen. We are gathered here today, here for only one purpose: to embrace and celebrate our World War II veterans for their courageous, victorious fight against two tyrannical enemies, and for their long lives of raising families, working productively, and making meaningful contributions to American society. To our extraordinary veterans, right out here towards the front, we hope you enjoy this day, listening to our stories from two of your kind, and receiving individual honors for exceptional military service, and connecting with other World War II veterans, and perhaps most importantly, sharing this celebration with family and friends. Also, we hope that at the end of our regular program that the veterans will come up, will be up here towards the front, and we'd love to get a group photo at the conclusion of the program. Right now, it's story time. And it is now our privilege to hear stories from two World War II veterans here today, Elmer Telgater and Mel Mack, two fine and outstanding gentlemen. And we sincerely thank them and their families for sharing these stories with us. Dave Thurkelson will read the setting for each story, while daughter Sandy Benson is going to read Elmer's story right now, and grandsons Sean Winter and Dan Winter will read Mel's story. Joanna Burton and myself were writing consultants for both stories.
Thank you, Larry. Good afternoon, everyone. In the spring of 1945, Army Private Elmer Telgetter arrived by ship at the Philippine Islands. Only a few months before Elmer's arrival, General MacArthur the final offensive against Japan to regain control of the Philippines. And to that end, the Allies had won a monumental battle for the capital city of Manila, though costing heavy combat and civilian casualties.
Good afternoon. Upon reaching the Philippines, I reported my assigned unit, the Army's 43rd Infantry Division. The division was positioned on the island of Luzon, not far from Manila. Shortly thereafter, my division received combat orders to seize the Manila's region's Ipoh Dam from a large contingent of well-fortified Japanese soldiers. By guarding and controlling the dam's hydraulic facilities, the enemy prevented the flow of vital water supplies from reaching both Filipinos and Allied forces. The battle plan called for one of my division's regiments to attack the front line of the enemy's defense. This offensive could lure the Japanese to reposition their forces from the dam itself to the battlefront. Meanwhile, our two other regiments, plus a number of Filipino guerrilla fighters, would advance on three flanks to overtake the remaining defenders stationed at the dam. The fight for Ipoh Dam started on May 7th. Combat conditions were very difficult. We forged through jungle forestation, large hills, ridges, ravines, and gorges. We often moved by night with little sleep to avoid Japanese detection. At times, we built temporary roads and bridges across gorges, and we battled against this climate's sizzling heat, drenching rains, and sloppy mud. But by May 19th, we had defeated the Japanese forces and took control of the dam. Let me add two more thoughts about this battle. First, we learned that the Japanese, though having lost, planned to blow up the dam. Fortunately for us and the Filipinos, they failed to detonate the explosives. And secondly, we encountered many Japanese prisoners who begged us for knives in order to carry out their self-inflicting harikari rituals. We refused all requests. Also at this time, I and others in my division were assigned a humanitarian mission of delivering clean water to Filipinos located in jungles east of Manila. We produced the water first by tapping the water from underground dug holes. Next, pumping water onto large collection tarps, and then emptying the water into pontoon-like tanks, and finally placing 2 of those tanks at a time on the Army trucks for delivery. I was selected to be a driver and was accompanied by a Filipino boy named Vizuko. He importantly served as both my jungle guide and interpreter. For nearly 3 weeks, we delivered much-needed water without meeting many stray Japanese hostiles. Vizuko on one occasion even wrote me a beautifully handwritten note in excellent English. I still have that note. By July of 1945, my division began preparations for the Allies' invasion of the Japanese homeland. We were scheduled to attack the enemies at the northernmost island of Hokkaido, but thankfully, with the news of the atomic bombs hitting Japan, the war ended. In September, the Army sent my division to Yokohama, Japan, to bolster the occupation forces. But after a brief stay, most everyone in the division returned home. The Army then transferred me and a few others to a cavalry division where we completed our remaining military obligations. At my new unit's base camp, I volunteered for kitchen duty as one of the 11 cooks. Early on, we lacked adequate cooking equipment and kitchen supplies to prepare food. There was this one morning while making pancake batter, I found myself a makeshift container for my mixing bowl, and I used my entire arm for stirring the mix. In between cooking duties, I traveled throughout Japan. I visited many places, including the devastated cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And wherever I went, I was usually the first American ever seen by Japanese. I always felt safe in my travels. It was agreed post-war that all weapons in Japan would be either confiscated or destroyed. And personally, the Japanese people treated me with the utmost humility and respect. Finally, in June of 1946, I returned by ship to Seattle, by train to Indiana's Camp Atterbury, and by family vehicle to my Cincinnati home. Thank you, Dad.
And by the summer of 1944, Marine Private Mel Mack completed stateside training as a combat infantryman. On August 1st of that summer, Mel joined other soldiers aboard the General Morton Liberty ship, bound from San Diego to an undisclosed location in the Pacific Theater. The real destination was Guadalcanal, a British Solomon island, and where 2 years earlier the Allies handed the Japanese a pivotal defeat.
Arriving at Guadalcanal, I immediately became a soldier in the newly formed 6th Marine Infantry Division. Guadalcanal's tropical climate and terrain made it an ideal place to train for possible future combat in Japanese occupied islands in the South Pacific. I needed all the training I could get. In addition to the training, I left Guadalcanal with 2 memorable experiences. One was getting 10 shots, 5 in each arm, to fight against diseases such as malaria. The other was seeing locals capture a huge 6-inch spider and then eating it raw. It's crazy. After more than 7 months at Guadalcanal, my Marine Division was deployed to Okinawa. With naval and aerial support, the mission of my division and other infantry divisions was to defeat the Japanese forces and take control of this strategically important island. We landed on Okinawa's beaches on Easter Sunday, April 1st, 1945. It was also April Fool's Day. Although ready to fight, we met little enemy resistance. During this first month, we secured the island's central and northern regions, again with minimal resistance. But by May, the real battle started, with over 100,000 Japanese soldiers and drafted civilians solidly entrenched in Okinawa's rugged southern terrain. We headed there, prepared for a grueling fight. My division's task was to defeat enemy soldiers and take control of 3 hill areas whose middle hill was called Sugarloaf. These hills featured steep slopes, long cliffs, ridges, gulches, and gorges. The Japanese occupied heavily fortified bunkers, trenches, caves, underground compartments, and tunnels. In combat, I always carried my rifle in an 80-pound backpack. It contained food boxes, clothes, a cot, and a shovel. I learned right away that it was easier to dig my foxhole with my helmet and not my shovel. I also decided to sleep on the ground very close to my rifle, just in case. We eventually took Sugarloaf and the surrounding hills, but at the cost of heavy casualties. And soon thereafter, the Allies secured all of Okinawa.
I learned later that my division was awarded the Presidential Unit Citation for our efforts at Okinawa. It reads in part, units of the 6th Marine Division withstood overwhelming artillery and mortar barrages, repulsed furious counterattacks, and staunchly pushed over the rocky terrain to reduce almost impregnable defenses and capture Sugarloaf Hill. With the Okinawa battle over, my division was shipped to Guam for much needed rest and recovery. Besides Guam, we occasionally visited 2 neighboring islands. One such visit was remarkable. As our transporting ship arrived at the island's dock, its crew immediately unfurled enormous rope ladders. We all quickly climbed down and off the ship. Why the hurry? Have some beers. In early August, we prepared to leave Guam for participation in the massive Allied invasion of the Japanese homeland. But then news came that 2 atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Japan surrendered. The war was over. We all felt unspeakable gratitude to President Truman. He saved our lives. For the next 5 months, my division was sent to a prisoner of war camp located near Qingdao, China. Our job there was to protect Japanese prisoners from the very angry Chinese. Finally, in January 1946, I was honorably discharged from the Marines and returned safely to my Cincinnati, Ohio family. A final thought. I was one of 6 brothers who all served in the military during the war. It was a miracle that all of us survived with no physical injuries. And we want to thank every veteran and active duty military for their service, and those who are also not with us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now it's recognition time, and I'm going to ask the ROTC folks to get in position right up here, close to the medals. And what we're going to do is recognize each World War II veteran and award that veteran with Otterbein's World War II Veteran Recognition Medal. Dave will lead us in this ceremony and be assisted by the Air Force Junior ROTC cadets.
Dan Allstater. Right over there, sir. Raise your hand again, sir.
Raise your hand.
Or have him stand up. Right. Yes, sir. Please stand.
They don't have to stand necessarily.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Navy, USS New Orleans. Cruiser, CA-32, who was a fireman. Transport troops, fired upon in Guam and Okinawa campaigns. Post-war transport Marines home from Okinawa. Thank you. Harry Bell. Harry? Yes, sir. Navy, USS Saipan, aircraft carrier, CVL-48, a Morse code recorder for ship officers. Post-war pilot training mission was in the Caribbean Sea. Thank you. Al de Bonaventure. Right, Coast Guard Atlantic Coastline. Protect the convoy and transport ships from German U-boats. Capture a German submarine. Thank you to Al de Bonaventure. Dorothy Garrison.
She's not here.
Wondered. Navy, Washington, D.C. Pentagon at the Navy Annex. Provided administrative support. Thank you to Dorothy Garrison. Ernest Godby. Ernest, sir. Marine Corps, post-war China, captured straggling Japanese soldiers for return to Japan. Observed Japanese inhumane treatment of Chinese civilians. Ernest, thank you very much. Bob Henry. Bob? Oh, very good. Hello, Bob. Army Air Corps, mechanic. Serviced aircraft in Guam and New Guinea campaigns. While away on one occasion, Japanese aircraft attacked his workstation, causing many casualties of his fellow mechanics. Bob, thank you. Charlie Kernitz. Charlie, sir. Navy. Brief service on a destroyer ship. Spent time in various post-war activities. Charlie, thank you very much. Mel Mack. Yes, sir. Marine Corps, 6th Marine Infantry Division, served on Guadalcanal. Saw significant action on Okinawa, including volunteer participant. Sugarloaf Hill, as you heard the dramatic story read a few moments ago. Post-war in China, guarding Japanese prisoners from angry Chinese civilians. Mel, thank you very much. Al Mason. Al?
I don't think he's here.
Correct. Wasn't sure if you may have shown up. Al Mason, Navy, USS Summers Destroyer DD-381. Protect Atlantic troop convoy ships from German submarines. And the USS Apollo submarine tender AS-25 serviced Pacific Fleet submarines. Thank you, Al Mason. Edwin Pellet. Edwin, sir, thank you. Army 6th Army Marechal Division. Chaplain's assistant. Served in Bougainville, New Guinea, and Cebu, Philippines campaigns. A general procured a euphonium for Edwin, which he played at chaplain church services, including playing taps at funerals. Post-war occupation forces in Japan. Edwin, thank you very much, sir. Bill Shoemate. Yes, sir. Marine Corps aviator, tail gunner, Douglas Gauntlet dive bomber. He fought against Japanese planes and ships in Guadalcanal and the new Georgia Island campaigns. Served 30 years in the Marine Corps. Bill, thank you very much. Gordon Sweemer. Gordon. Yes, sir. Gordon served in the Coast Guard, USS Oconee, AO-634, a gasoline tanker. Transported gasoline to the Pacific Fleet ships and remote island Navy stations. On one occasion, took on sniper fire while anchored and unloading fuel. Gordon, thank you very much, sir. Elmer Telgetter. Elmer. Army 43rd Infantry Division technician. He saw action in the liberation of Luzon, Philippines and the battle for Ipoh Dam. Humanitarian mission of delivering clean water to Filipinos in the jungle areas near Manila. Post-war occupation forces in Japan, one of 11 cooks, as we heard in the story earlier. Thank you, Elmer. Turk Thurkelson, my father. Navy, USS Cecil, attack transport, APA 96. Turk played an integral role in delivering 5th Division Marine troops, cargo, and vehicles to the beaches of Iwo Jima. He played a supporting role in the Battle for Okinawa. From the signal bridge of the Cecil, Turk witnessed the iconic Marine flag raising on Mount Suribachi. Turk, thank you very much, Dad. Jim Vernier. Jim, sir. Navy, USS Purdy destroyer, DD-734, a gunner's mate, Battle for Okinawa. Jim's gun crew is credited with multiple Japanese kamikaze plane hits. And the Purdy was ultimately struck by a dive bomber, causing 15 shipmates' fatalities. Jim, thank you very much. Larry?
Let's just give one big, loud, rousing cheer for our World War II veterans. Great. We appreciate you so much. Thank you. We're about to conclude this program, and I just wanted to take just a couple minutes to say a few things. One is just to say thank you for all of you being here today. We very much appreciate it. I want to thank Joanna Burton, who's here today, and thank her for her contributions to the stories. I want to thank April Peacock, our volunteer coordinator. She did a lot of excellent clerical work and helped out today in preparing for this event. There's Rhonda there with the camera. She's our programming director, and she and her helper, they just have done a great job in setting this up and setting up the poster boards and helping with the medals and refreshments. We're gonna have some light refreshments later, stop and have some with us. But we thank them for their tremendous help. I also want to thank Bob Arledge, who's sitting right here, and Jana Morrison. I saw her someplace. I know there she's back in the back. She's our arts person, and they did such a great job in terms of inspiring the poster board, which we had a couple of years ago at the Memorial Day service, and for which we revised it for this particular service. So we really appreciated that. And they even added on a section there to the right that I had not seen before, so that's really great. I also want to thank Kevin George for helping out with the audio visual and all the things that he does to help these services in terms of our sound and our vision. Does a terrific job. We really appreciate his help. I also want to thank my right-hand men on my committee, Bob Hinn and John Sexton, for all their outstanding work they do. They give great wisdom and counsel to me, and I very much appreciate all their tremendous help. And I appreciate Bob Hinn, and I really appreciate all of his ushers that he gathered today to help us out. So we thank all the ushers and Bob for all their efforts to get us seated and everything. And finally, I just want to thank so much our young people. Here we are, 3 or 4 generations from the World War II. And we've made a connection with their generation. They will be the people that may go out and fight the next war. They may go out to the battlefields, and they may become veterans someday. And I'm going to tell them right now to your face, this is a tremendous event. You'll be able to tell your children, your relatives, your grandchildren someday that you knew and you met some World War II veterans that they will read about. So it's a very significant time. We thank you very much for your excellent work here today. Thank you. Let's go ahead. Now, second thing I want to mention, it was mentioned by one of Mel's grandsons just a little while ago, but I think it's time for us also, for all the veterans, the World War II veterans don't have to stand, that's fine, but all the other veterans or anybody that's in active duty service, I'd like for you to stand at this time. All the other veterans. I know we have a number in our crowd. Thank you. Thank you. It is our heartfelt gratitude to these veterans also here at Otterbein. We appreciate them so much. Let's see. I believe that is it. So I'm going to conclude the program by inviting one of our most distinguished veterans here at Otterbein, Bob Barledge, to the stage to give our concluding remarks. And don't forget, veterans, we're going to have a group photo up front here. Just remain up here right at the end of the program. Bob?
Good afternoon. It takes a lot of work and coordination to have a successful event like this, so I would like to recognize Larry Rankin, unless he's the coordinator here. And I'm going to close this with a little poem, and then we'll have the refreshments. There is a discipline in a soldier. You can see it when he walks. There is honor in a soldier. You can hear it when he talks. There is courage in a soldier. You can see it in his eyes. There is loyalty in a soldier. He will not compromise. There is something in a soldier that makes him stand apart. There is strength in a soldier that beats from his heart. A soldier isn't a title any man can be hired to do. A soldier is the soul of that man buried deep inside of you. A soldier's job isn't finished after an 8-hour day or a 40-hour week. A soldier is always a soldier, even while he sleeps. A soldier serves his country first, and his life is left behind. A soldier has to sacrifice what comes first in a civilian's mind. If you're a civilian, I'm saying this to you. Next time you see a soldier, remember what they do. A soldier is the reason our land is the home of the free. A soldier is the one that is brave protecting you and me. If you're a soldier, I'm saying this to you. Thank God for every soldier. Thank God for what you do. So we'll conclude with that. Thank you.
And let me just make a final comment. I was remiss to thank one person I didn't get a chance to thank, and that's Dave Thurkelson over there. And I'm so glad he came and shared the stage with us today. So thank you, Dave, also. We'd like for you to stay. You can stay seated. You can stay seated. World War II vets.